Welcome back, everyone. I hope all of you had lunch. Before one of you yawns or burps, or before I yawn or burp, I immediately want to go into the next session. Uh, the next section is pretty interesting. We're calling it technology that scales and launches globally. And I want to take the example of Razorpay. Somewhere in 2022, we acquired this company called Kerlek in Malaysia. Kerlek used to basically provide subscription services. And since then, it's been almost a good 3 years now, and we've more or less launched the entire payment stack of Razorpay over there, both in Malaysia as well as Singapore. Why am I talking about all of this? Well, when a company or a product tries to go global, there's a lot of challenges that come into the picture. There's a lot of technological challenges that come into the picture. So we have curated a panel to talk just that. And I have a bunch of set of leaders who've done just that. And they've done it amazingly well. So to moderate this session, let me invite Vivek Agarwal, VP Engineering at Razorpay. And I have amazing set of speakers for this. With a round of applause, Anoop Menon, CTO, RedBus. Ravi Datla, SVP Customer Solution Center, South Asia, Mastercard. Rajat Bansal, CTO, Games 24/7. And Pramod Jajoo, angel investor, ex-SVP at Flipkart, and former CTO of BigBasket. Over to you, folks. Thank you so much for coming over here. I'm excited for a great session.
Folks, thanks for joining in. Each one of you, Rajat, Pramod, Amit, and Anoop. So you have worked in the companies where you have actually built products in India and actually successfully scaled them globally. And quite a lot of them are pretty successful as well. So in this discussion, we'll want to discuss around what are the technical strategies you use for that, right? What are the scalability challenges you generally face, regulatory requirements, what you face, and what is that which actually inspired to go global as well. With that, I'll get started with my first set of questions. So Anoop, this is for you. RedBus has its presence internationally in actually 8+ countries, and you have been doing it for 6 years back, where there were hardly any Indian companies, right, where you can actually draw this kind of inspiration, starting in India, going global. Right? What did it take to make it happen?
Okay, so I hope everybody here knows what RedBus is and what we do. But for the uninitiated, we sell bus tickets online in India, and we are about 19 years old now as a company. We started going international actually a little more than 7 years. It's about, I think this year, mid of this year, we'll complete about 10 years of global expansion. And we started with Singapore, Malaysia as our first hub. And as you said, including India, we're in about 8 different countries, spanning across South America and Peru and Colombia. Southeast Asia, which is Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. And very recently, less than a year old, we launched Vietnam and Cambodia. Right? So, and yes, you know, if you look at the RedBus, this thing, we really are a company, we did not have any inspiration either domestically or globally when the company was started. And the idea was that, you know, there was a good bunch of engineers who got together. We got a platform going. And after about 8, 9 years, 10 years of being in the industry, we had built a very, very scalable platform for India, which was taking care of multiple scenarios for the Indian consumers, because the kind of scale we were seeing from a bus industry was also quite large, right? And once that was there, we wanted to see if we are, and the platform which we had built was really scalable in the sense of we had gone into a microservices architecture way ahead. We are probably one of the earliest adopters of cloud in the country, you know, private sort of this thing. We have been on AWS cloud for of the 19 years, probably 7.5 years has been on the cloud. So very, very early into the cloud journey as well. So we felt that we had a good platform which we could try and replicate internationally. And that's where we started out looking at international as a market and trying to kind of replicate that journey and that success, what we were seeing in India internationally. And with that, of course, Malaysia was the first entry point. Singapore, Malaysia was an initial entry. And I mean, we've had interesting challenges as well. I mean, in terms of how do we scale what are the nuances. But for us, when you kind of say that, what is the problem of scale you see in the other countries, today for us, India surpasses the scale of any other countries by multiple margins. So since we have solved for the scale in India, we are able to kind of very, very quickly launch out things in the international markets. And purely, if you look at the RedBus scale today, I think we've done over, 466 million tickets globally.
Okay.
We have about 50 to 52 million users, 8 countries, of which in 2 countries, both India and Malaysia, we are market leaders. And I think, of course, the scale does continue to come from India as well. We've done some good growth, this thing. And in terms of why India, why internationally, I think it was all about, can we replicate that? And once we started seeing benefits coming out and we were able to see the model successfully replicating in 1 or 2 of these geographies, we want to expand further. So I think all the Southeast Asian countries, it's organic entry.
Okay.
Latin America, especially Peru, we got in inorganically by acquiring a company there. But then from there into Colombia was a organic entry as well. So that's pretty much us.
Thank you. So I'll pass it to Rajat. So Rajat, Games 24/7 is doing pretty well in India. It's one of the leading online gaming platform. So while I understand that you have not gone global yet, right? But what are the key factors that you take into consideration when developing your products in case you have to go global?
Yeah. So just to, Anoop, to give you a brief history, Games 24/7 is one of the leading multi-gaming platform in India. We have existed for 17 years. When you think about online gaming, and that to real money gaming or skill gaming, the concept itself did not exist in India. And over 17 years, the company has seen everything. Since we are in a fintech conference, I was not part of the company, but I was told that at that time, getting money in was a 11% markup fee that we had to pay to the banks to get money into the system there. So that's how, that's the era at which the company started there with. So when we think about our tech stack or our development strategy for our games like Rummy Circle or My 11 Circle, with IPL coming in, we'll see a lot of scale as well. Even if we are not going globally at this moment, to me, it's not like the game that I'm building only. It's the underlying tech platform that has to compete at a global level with all the gaming providers there. And when I talk about on what basis it has to compete, few things comes in is in a gaming, your topmost item is that can you provide the most engaging personalized experience there. Now, how does your platform support that? For our audience in India, maybe the underlying models will be different, and if we tomorrow have to go to some other geography, the user behavior will lead us to build another kind of models there. But can I use those models, plug it seamlessly into my systems, and give that personalized experience there? For example, we have built a framework. You can say it's a very mass or a very big distributed system that serves 3 billion personalized offers and communications a day. 3 billion. And most of that is actually, of those 3 billion offers, are actually clubbed in a 90-minute period there. So that's the kind of scale when we talk about. Every year, we kind of serve almost 5.5 billion games there. At peak, our proxies run at 10 million plus transactions per minute there. Now, how do I build that? Because although I'm operating in India, but what I'm also competing is players who are looking at a global stack and are building products for India as well. The second aspect becomes the scalability and a very low latency. Gaming, the key part is serving that low latency traffic at a very, very high throughput there. So although we operate in India, for us, these things are that, do I have the best-in-class tech system that can support, and at the same time, is it flexible enough to say that if tomorrow I have to launch somewhere else, I'm saying not even say outside India. Within India, there are variations there. There are state-level variations in terms of in the field we operate, that what we can do and what we cannot do. So if I extrapolate that from state to, say, regulatory compliances across countries, my systems need to be flexible enough to say that, can I accommodate that, can I run it? Similar things happens on security and privacy there. We are in a field where that becomes a paramount of importance with DPDP Acts, which is even more stringent in my opinion than GDPRs of the world in terms of financial penalty. how do we build a platform that competes on a global stage?
Exactly.
It's not like we've not experimented with the global markets there. We did had a casual gaming arm. So currently we run only the skill gaming platform there. We had a casual gaming arm called as U Games, where till last year we were trying to build some casual games from Western markets there. But the core concept was we are able to utilize this underlying platform and try to run those experiments. We decided not to pursue with that. But that kind of keeps us ready to say that we are not competing locally. We are competing on a more global stage there.
Got it. So basically, it's more of a AI models what you are using beneath it to drive personalized experience.
Oh yes, at this moment as well, there will be almost 50 plus AI models serving in the user journey itself seamlessly there. It's we kind of captures like hundreds of thousands of data points every second from a user perspective, and we believe that anything that the user is doing on your platform or not doing on that page, user is telling you something, and can you use it to personalize the experience?
Very nice. Very nice. So Ravi, while we spoke about scale, right? Mastercard is a global company, everybody knows it. And they have used it very beautifully, right? How to go global. So while we spoke about technological challenges, right? Can you talk about operational and regulatory challenges, right? What do you think is Mastercard aced in, right? When it tried to expand global?
So I think if you fundamentally look at what a Mastercard network is, right? The way we look at it is it's fundamentally just a messaging service. And it's a service that is connecting, let's say, 4,000 to 5,000 financial institutes globally, and 200 plus merchants, 200 million plus merchants globally, right? And then I don't know the number of millions of consumers that we connect. It's not top of my mind. So technically, what we're trying to do here is connect all of these parties seamlessly, and more importantly, consistently. That what we actually bring to the table is a brand promise, right? If you have a Mastercard and you are at a Mastercard accepting merchant, the transaction will go through. You want to pay it in different forms. It could be an online, offline payment, tap and pay, and different ways, and everyone's got their preference. So what we enable is that seamless architecture of it. Now coming to the regulation in such kind of a global environment and scale, because the regulations are fairly complex, one of the most important piece, and this is also post facto me realizing that after I joined a network like Mastercard, we are firstly self-regulated in itself. And that's one of the reasons that we as a network put in a lot of standards. And sometimes many of our partners continue to complain, why wouldn't you do this? Why would you enforce this on us? There's a bit of a clear, responsible role that we're playing, that when you are connecting the world together, there's a minimum standards that you need to operate with. And I'll actually give one very classic example, right? Now there is this DPDP Act, there's a PSD 2.2, recent phenomena, right? 2-3 years in the making, and we'll roll out. But will such kind of a massive tectonic shift in regulation suddenly impact a global organization like us? No, because I think at the core of it, maybe 20 years back when we were designing our systems, data privacy was a fundamental principle that we ensured as a self-regulated entity to be able to incorporate all of that into our system. Because when we've connected so many people, we can't have all of them to change overnight. So similarly, at many regulations that we see, we're talking about digital currencies and tokens and stuff now. Mastercard has been on a path of creating tokens almost 10-15 years back. We didn't speak much about it. We were underlying just changing our own rails to be not in the world that we call digital, but at least in the world that we were, where we actually had the actual card number flowing across ecosystems. We started that journey, and India accelerated that. We've managed to get 100% tokenization here. But I think these are some aspects that we self-regulate predominantly to be able to cater consistently across. But there's also the diversity that we, and the flexibility that we need to be operating with, respecting the jurisdictions of various countries that we operate in, and wherever there is a specific requirement that needs to be tackled slightly differently to what we operate. I think we've managed to create services on top of the core platforms. And in many situations, and thanks to folks who have designed this architecture, and actually some of our core services still continue on mainframes. We do have controls. Technically, regulation is nothing but some form of a control. We have the ability to implement controls at a country level, at a kind of merchant level, at a kind of entity connecting to us, and all of them are configurable at this way. So I think that's the beauty of the architecture that you are able to solve, actually cater to a very diverse needs across.
I like the way you put it, right? As simple as a messaging platform,
Yeah.
right? It makes it look very, very simple. Thank you. So Pramod, over to you. So as a mentor and angel investor, right, to a lot of tech companies, what are your suggestions on guidance to tech startups on how to plan to go global, not to go global at this point of time?
Wow, that's a very complex question. Because even if you look at the company focus, if you're a consumer company or a B2B enterprise company, the aspects that you look at are going to be different. But let me sort of talk about a few very basic principles that surprisingly not everybody gets it. So the common sense isn't, there is an ambition, there is a reason that an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur because they want to take over the world. But the main thing is that my message is at least very simple to start with. Understand your primary market or primary customer, and understand the value proposition. Make sure that the product market fit is there in that primary market. Now, obviously, when you start a company, you would have an aspect of a total addressable market or a TAM. And then you could say, hey, I'll get XYZ% of that TAM, as part of my business. Are you able to get that? Are you able to have the growth that is expected in that large market, right? And only when you do well in the primary market, now RedBus is a good example, 10 plus years in India first, which is a good thing. Then you could say, hey, primary market, this works. And only then you try to look at the secondary market, so to say, right? And otherwise, if you go to secondary markets, whether it's a secondary country or a different customer segment or a business segment, then the biggest thing as a startup is you're always going to be resource constrained, whether it's people resources, money, or your time, energy. And so the big mantra is to focus sharply, and ability to say no to opportunities, right, is very important. My recommendation is just make sure that we are able to focus relentlessly on the primary market, win those, make sure the value proposition is understood, go deeper there. And once that is proven, then sort of, look at the other markets. That said, on the product and engineering side, even when you're trying to, when you have only primary focus, my suggestion is always look at things from a global perspective. And a simple example is, since we're in a fintech conference here, money, if you're handling money, make sure that in your database you're showing currency and the value. At ShipBob, I can tell you, we did not do that basic thing right? So when we expanded to Europe, it turned out to be a massive project because we had achieved very large scale, and then the currency was USD across the system, and so all the assumptions of currency was only US dollars, right? So to have, British pound or euro was a Herculean task. So do those basics right, from an engineering product perspective, like a product, like a message catalog, units of measure, currency, and that you can build that right in the beginning, and that would serve you well later.
Got it. Thanks, Pramod. Thank you. Anoop, back to you. So, while deploying to multiple regions across multiple geographies, right, people generally use a single branch strategy, multiple branch strategies, right? Even we are debating right now internally what to do. So what did you choose and how did you conclude on that particular choice?
So, to kind of set this thing straight, we are a single branch strategy. Okay. We do have, because we were kind of experimenting internationally and we started with Malaysia, a lot of most of our deployments were happening out of Singapore region initially.
Correct.
And for the first 3 years, even for LATAM, we were serving from Singapore because it was the same code base, etc. Of course, now we have expanded. Now we have multiple region deployment strategy to cater to latencies, etc., and all of that. But the code base remains same. And when there is a deployment which is happening, it happens in all 3 locations, irrespective of the fact that a feature is being built for a particular region. The reason is that what we've seen across the years is that irrespective of however the business or the product thinks that, hey, this is a unique feature to this country, this geo, it is only required for me, etc., for this region, time and again we have seen that that particular feature seems to garner a lot of interest, and then which is probably acquiring a lot more customers or helping us improve the transactions. The other region, the other product manager, the business would want to kind of acquire that and kind of replicate that in that fashion. Of course, there are always going to be nuances to all of these, right? And the challenge when you're having a single branch strategy is how are you going to cater to the nuances of the vagaries of the different this thing, especially when it comes to the user interface. And that is where the complexity sets in, because let's say that on, if you look at the search result page of India, Indonesia, LATAM, you would see that there are minor differences in all of these pages. However, if you kind of look at it from a 20,000 feet, the underlying basics are exactly the same. People are coming in, are searching for a bus, getting some search results, looking at the seat layout, selecting a seat, selecting the boarding point, dropping point, and kind of going and paying, right? So the underlying, both the the concept of how people are transacting for buses is pretty much standard across. And we realized that there is no point in trying to do 2 things. One, if I go to a multi-region strategy, my resourcing would have to be really thought through again. We are not a very large team. If you look at just the developer count, we are probably just 200, 220 people in development. There's some testing folks as well. And then the second aspect is that the chances of the system, the underlying system, taking 7 different parts becomes very this thing, and you may end up having a lot of rework which is happening. So we were very early to decide that since our platform, when we decided to go international, was already microservices architecture based, we were able to kind of take this at that time itself, saying that, hey, we would, because these are all individual, so I think we would have about 40, 50 different microservices or 60 microservices now, which is running on the platform, and there are dedicated people who are focused on that. So that helps it, saying that, look, if I am working on a particular piece, yes, I would have to cater to not just India requirements, but also other requirements, but that's easy because my piece is small enough for me to control, scale, and build on top of it. I'm not looking at this would have been difficult if I was doing a monolith sort of an application. That I have a monolith for India, now I want to build something for international, then it would have been a mess to manage.
Yes.
But since we were already in the microservices structure, it really helped us scale and grow. And as I said, right, we were very conscious, I continue to be conscious of the fact that I do not really want that it takes me or my team a lot of time to kind of be able to kind of go into a new country and stuff like that. Yes, my CEO may not completely agree to this, but what we go by the fact is that today if I have to launch a new country, and assuming that there's no nuances, I will take, Peru as a use case, and I want to drop it in France as an example. I just need 3 things. I need inventory to be integrated, which is unique. If there are any payment systems, specifically unique payment things which I have to integrate that, and languages. So all the other things around currencies, etc., is all covered. Everything is taken care. And if, let's say, language is not a problem, then it's just inventory and payment, and I'm done. I can launch it tomorrow.
Very nice. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other challenges as well. We'll discuss it offline on single branching strategies. Ravi, global expansions mean dealing with multiple different kinds of requirements, right? Regulatory, we spoke about some of them. How do you build technology, right, that actually adapts to it, right? While you spoke about something, right, how it is inculcated into the culture of the company, right? How do you leverage technology to actually, let's say, release faster or launching a product across multiple countries where there are a lot of nuances?
So I think the core of it is we have a massive unification of services and standards, what we call the ISO standards that are fairly published. And there's a bit of a EMV core standards as well that Mastercard was an author to a large extent and then worked with our competition to create those standards across. Now, what simplifies with standards is for a bank, let's say sitting any corner of the world, they expect a similar kind of messaging from different parties. And that's where most card networks globally, including RuPay as well, would follow similar standards, and it becomes a little easier for a bank to suddenly not get bothered by different people telling them different stuff. Now, the second piece that's a complexity that needs to be addressed for us is for the scale and diversity, right? We got, maybe again, scale is not too different compared to what India is, but let's say you're talking about 150 to 180 billion transactions in a year, and all of them need to be scored. We do have, I mean, we've been using predictive AI for 10, 15 years now. We score every transaction in less than 50 milliseconds because we actually complete a transaction in 250 milliseconds, right? And that happens wherever you transact globally. So to be able to continue to deliver that kind of service levels, and again, from a service levels, I think we also deliver almost 5 nines of availability, and I haven't seen a news of a network not being available in many years, right? So that's, I think, a very gold standard for us to maintain. And I think the areas that we continue to now invest is the newer services that we're building, right? We're trying to move to API architectures, the services, and we're actually, traditionally, we only catered to the 4 parties that we used to operate with, the acquirer, the issuer. Now we're trying to provide direct services to players like you, to players like the payment apps, which traditionally were only connected as a second hop for us. Now, there as well, and with these new architectures, I think we're still not at 5 nines on these newer architectures, 4 definitely. It's important for us to have that consistent experience on the technologies that we're upgrading as well. I think those are the 2 key items that continue to keep our tech teams running all night. That whatever they do, they need to first provide the basic service that they need to do. And at the same time, be quick to market. We, as business, we continue to challenge many times. You can't be saying that you'll take 3-4 years to get a new platform in and have everyone rewire. And consistency of that messaging also is a big challenge. And some of you who work closely with us would have understood. We continue to issue what we call bulletins. Sometimes some of them are mandatory changes, some of them are optional changes. But there's a very consistent output that we put, like I said, in the messaging service, you're technically telling everyone connected to us how to chat with us, right? And everyone really need to follow those rules for the system to work.
Thank you. Rajat, while you were at Amazon, right, you worked for Amazon Lockers, right? Did scaling had a challenge over there, right? Because multiple geographies, right? Real estate challenges are also there.
No, it was an interesting journey there. Like, so this was before Games 24/7. So Amazon Locker is a product where it's like a kiosk-like cabinet we install at public places. And you, instead of shipping your packet to your home, you can ask the packet to be shipped to a kiosk, walk in and pick your packet there. Interesting part was those physical kiosks or cabinets were installed at third-party vendor sites or partner sites like your petrol stations, 7-Elevens of the world, Safeways of the world, etc. So I used to own the engineering, global engineering for that. So when we started expanding it to multiple marketplaces, it was a very interesting learning for us. And this, like being a more fintech, payment-oriented audience there, our biggest learning was how the payment system from a tax and compliance works. Where this was like a B2B payment. Like wherever I install, I used to pay some rent for that. Now, your Western set of countries, US, etc., typical European countries work. But then we started running into issues like when we launched in Italy. Italy had a unique law where they had a centralized invoicing system there, like where all invoices of B2B will be submitted to a central portal and settled through that portal there. Like. Now that's a big nuance, like in terms of the way you work with your vendors. To complicate it further, at Amazon, in a true customer obsession way, what we said was, we will generate invoice on behalf of the vendor. We'll not penalize vendor to generate an invoice. Now, how do you build that system there? We went to Brazil. Systems were even more complex. If you go there, Latin America, what we realized was there are systems where when you generate an invoice, and invoice itself requires a lot of other things that you need to capture, you need to send it to a government portal. It has to pass that, get an approval, then you can send it to a seller. Now, these are very bespoke implementations in different countries there. Suddenly what we realized was our longest pole to launch in a country was not a core product, was building this payment capability there. So that was a very interesting learning for me. If I come back to Games 24/7, we spoke about this system that we built where I can serve 3 million offers a day, a personalized system. We thought that, okay, we have done that. This is something very unique capability, very large scale capabilities. Can we open it up for other game developers there? So we launched it as a service in US. Suddenly we started seeing adoption as well. But on Pramod's point, soon we realized that although that's a very good technology that we have built and is getting adopted as well, it's a big distraction for the business there. At that time, we have to actually pull back on something that was working decently well, could have grown into it, to say that no, we do not want to have my 20% mind share there and come back here. Because sometimes we are so, like that technology was so promising and we were so, we felt so good about that scale and the kind of platform we built. We said this can actually enable a lot more customers, a lot more players in. So to me, like as you are globally, like there are multiple challenges. It can be payment compliance. It can be like, okay, does it take focus away from your core job there? Like, and those were like two examples that I like to cite here, because like there are many more, but these two are like, which are like very different examples, very different challenges, very different organizations there.
Fair point. Pramod, I think Flipkart is a company I think a lot of people sitting here inspire from. When Flipkart was acquired by Walmart, did Walmart try to leverage some of the technology capability of Flipkart for use cases outside India? Right? Any insights on those?
Yeah. So just quickly about Flipkart. I know people may know it, but obviously Flipkart is one of the largest e-commerce companies in the world. Hundreds of millions of users, millions of merchants selling, and ton of products. So the complexity to handle that at scale. And the other thing was pretty much all the platform was built in-house at Flipkart, has been built in-house over the years. And so the idea was, and so Walmart, to answer your question directly, Walmart had a sort of an arm's distance strategy to say, hey, let's keep Flipkart running independently. Let's have Walmart engineering. There's an engineering big center in India, in Bangalore even today, and Flipkart has a big engineering center. But then Flipkart itself started to think to say, okay, look, we build all these things, and to Rajat's point, can we take some of the platform components, and can we productize that, right? And so that was happening at that time, and we decided to take that to SaaS. Obviously, at the low end, you have Shopify's of the world, where you could build any small vendor can come on Shopify, but somebody who has scale, these problems are not easy at scale.
Yeah.
And so the idea was, can we take this to market? And so we identified the ad platform as the first one to take to market. Now, one of the reasons for the ad platform as a first product to take it to market was, ad is a very complex thing to serve. You have display ads, you have product listing ads, you have the advertisers here, you are doing personalization stuff. Advertisers want to see the efficacy of the ads, right? And you have, as a vendor, you have a platform, you want to maximize the inventory, right? So it's a very, very complex undertaking. So we said, okay, let's look, and Flipkart had done a very good job on the ads platform. So we said, okay, let's take that. The other thing is, it's easy to demonstrate ROI on ad. So you could have let's say you go to an XYZ e-commerce company, they are running something for monetizing their ads. You could say, replace this and do something else, and do your ad revenue go up. It's a pretty simple thing to measure, right? So that was the second thing. And can we do a GTM? Can we take it to market? So, and interestingly enough, one of the first customers was Walmart in Chile for that. But that was one, obviously with a Walmart connection, but it had to be one on the merit to say, okay, you can do it, and can we get that to market? So some of the interesting learnings out of that were, And by the way, this eventually now Flipkart Commerce Cloud, it started with ads, but now I was just looking at the website just like not too long ago. Now there are many components there, from checkout to personalization to catalog management to obviously ad platform and all that. So it has grown into a much more mature business. But some of the early learnings were, like the self-service tools aren't there, right? So you got to do a high-touch thing to, let's say, Walmart Chile. So when you use the platform internally, people are used to it after a period of time.
Correct.
And so you don't have the tooling or the self-service capabilities or the reporting as nicer thing. So you had to handle the customer to set it up and all that. So that was one big thing. The other interesting thing that I will talk to the audience, and Rajat also kind of mentioned this, but one thing to keep in mind is whether you eventually platformize your product or not, as a developer or a product person, you should always think to say, can I productize it later, right? Or can I open source it later? Is this important enough to be open source later? And if you ask those questions, some of the architectural decisions that you're going to make at that time are going to pave the way that going to give you a big leverage later. Because later to do this retrospectively, it's much, much harder. So if you do that and just, in the beginning, it doesn't take that much to put the plumbing there. But to do the replumbing is much, much harder. So just keep that in mind.
It's a complete overhaul.
Yes, yes.
Right. We'll quickly go deep into a few rapid fires, one-word answers. Right. We'll go with Rajat, you first, 5 questions, separate questions to you. API first approach, essential or just a buzzword? Sorry? API first approach, essential or just a buzzword?
Essential.
DevOps, culture or just a set of tools?
Culture.
Internationalizations, beyond language, what one cultural factor do you consider?
I'll say that internationalization is just not language. It's a lot more things about currency. So I'll say currency is the next one.
How big a challenge is to scale globally on a scale 1 to 5? 5 being most difficult.
If you've done the base right, it's 2.
Okay. Serverless, yes, no, emerging.
Emerging.
Thanks a lot, Rajat.
I was inclined to say no, but
No, fair. We'll go to Pramod you. Biggest risk, scaling, security, competition.
Scaling.
Okay. Innovation is incremental, disruptive, or both?
I think both.
Very nice. Security practice, shift left or continuous security?
Shift left.
Build or buy for core global features?
Buy. So let me quantify. In the sense, buy. If you can buy it, that's not really your IP. But build it if nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, but if it's available in the market, buy it.
Yes. So don't do your ticketing system for sure.
Containerization or orchestration? Essential or just a trend?
Essential.
Thank you. Ravi, up to you. In terms of regulations, and I'm putting a lot of regulations because you are from Mastercard and you help us all getting regulated, but what top one concern for global expansion for any companies?
I think time to market.
Time to market. Great. Again, same question, biggest challenge, scaling, hiring, competition?
I think security would be the one in the mix. Because the threats are evolving day to day and you got to be up there.
Okay. Key learning, adaptability, resilience, focus?
All of them.
Right. Cloud native or hybrid?
Well, in our world, hybrid.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Ravi. Anoop, over to you. Microservices or monolith?
Microservices.
That was pretty obvious. Horizontal or vertical scaling?
I think both for us. It's kind of based on what platform, what backend we are looking at.
Database choice for a global reach?
Database choice, I think it's very subjective to the kind of systems you're building.
But if you have to choose in terms of, let's say, SQL or a NoSQL, where would you want to move?
Again, we have a good mix of both. Like, it's very user specific. I mean, for transactional, I don't think I will ever trust NoSQL. I would still want to go with hardcore RDBMS approach.
Okay.
But for a lot of other use cases, NoSQL, we are heavy users of that as well.
On a scale of 1 to 5, caching strategy for minimizing latency.
Which is 1, what is 5?
5 is like most optimal, the best.
Yeah, 5.
CDN essential or optional for global delivery content?
Very essential.
Yeah. Cool, great. Thank you all for the rapid fire. I think we are running out of any time. More than happy to take a couple of questions.
Thank you. That was a very intriguing session. One question to the panel I would like to ask is, I've seen a lot of folks, even in the startup side, right? The moment they want to expand, they try to look at Southeast Asia. Is there a reason? Is it because of culture? Is it techno regulations? Your thoughts?
No, I mean, for RedBus, I think the reason Southeast Asia is because we've not looked at expansion from any other logic than the market being available there. So we had this mix of defining whether we should enter a market, 2, 3 things, whether there is a marketplace effect. For example, we will not enter a market where there's only 1 operator or 2 operators. What would we do? However large the business is. And secondly, what is the e-commerce trend there? What is the ecosystem, payment ecosystem like? Those are the choices. And if you really look at it from a bus market, there are 2 large markets we've seen. South America has a large market, we feel, and then followed up with certain parts of Southeast Asia has been very, very promising. So that's how we are there. It's nothing to do with the culture or closeness to India, nothing like that.
I just thought it's a repeating trend, so there has to be something to it.
I mean, for us, it's been all, from Malaysia, then Indonesia was close by. From Malaysia, we have expanded into Cambodia. There is some adjacencies there, but because some of these are smaller countries from a business side, so it becomes as an extension to, let's say, Malaysia. Cambodia would be looked at as an extension to Malaysia for us internally, though it's our specific countries with specific challenges. But otherwise, there's nothing. Otherwise, we would not have been in Peru and Colombia, which is pretty much on the other side of the world.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nitin. My question is to you, Ravi. In last couple of years, UPI has disrupted payment market. And if I'm not wrong, it has impacted Visa and Mastercard most, the network schemes. What are some of the strategies that Mastercard is evolving to kind of compete with UPI?
So I think the way we look at it is it's multiple rails serving various needs and various customers. And if you actually look at many folks in this room, everyone uses UPI, and some of them have cards for specific use cases that they continue to use. I think what we look at is what is the overall growth of the payment ecosystem. And I think it's just multiplying every year. And there's a huge pyramid that is getting created. And if you look at the overall penetration of digital payments, we still have a long way to go. So if there's a competitor accelerating the entire digitization, and it would definitely have green shoots for us as well. While there's a mainstream perception that we're impacted, it's the way to look at it, right? A few years back, there were 2, 3 players in the market. Now the number of players have increased, and obviously there's one player who's doing significant work. But did the market grow for everyone? Did the business grow from everyone? And is there an underlying use case or need that each of these parties are serving to? I think the answer is this, and that continues to stay. And the very simple way I'd say is, if the cards business was not as lucrative, RuPay wouldn't launch a credit card, right? So technically, the business is good, and everyone's going to play their equal share.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Folks, thank you.
Sorry, can I ask this question or can
Just
I take
one
the unfair
last
advantage?
question, and we'll quickly close it. Yes,
All right,
please.
so I have a simple question, I hope, that is simple. So for any platform that is starting up and looking to have AI models integrated in that platform to automate the journey, what are the primary factors that you would be looking at? For example, it is ChatGPT, Midjourney, and so many other AI tools nowadays. So if I integrate that in a platform, what am I doing? What I should be looking at as a non-tech person? Yeah.
I can take that as well. So one thing that we have realized is there's just lot of buzz, lot of adoption around Gen AI. At the same time, like we have been running, or we have been like, we say our core ethos is games, science of gaming, and we have been running these models for a while. One thing you should be very, very concerned about, or like should be observing very closely, is the quality of output there. Many times we feel that, oh, I should integrate Gen AI, or this model or that model there. What it also concerns is, do you have enough guardrails in place to say that, can you do a quality check on the output of that or not? Currently, if you look at market trends, out of every 100 projects, 85 fail because of this. They run very well in POCs there. As you start productionizing it, when you say in production, in POC, 90% accuracy is right. In production, 99% accuracy is wrong. So one thing that you should be very concerned about is, it's easy to start, but do you have a strategy to productionize it? And to me, the single most reason they fail is on the quality check side. At least that's one thing I'll try to raise there.
I'll just add on to that. But having said that, and I agree completely with what Rajat said, but I think it's also important for everybody in this room, anybody else who's listening, I think tech guy, non-tech guy, whoever it is, I think it's important to be on the bandwagon of AI now. Otherwise, you're going to get obsolete so quickly that you would not know what has struck you. So it is very, very important. And it's, as Rajat said, it's also very important to see how are you utilizing it and how do you leverage your team to utilize it in the right manner and get the best out of it. We are doing a whole bunch of things on UI, at the RedBus and on the AI part of it. And we are using all of it. We have tried on Gemini, we have used Claude, we have used GPT, because we are also evaluating what works best for our use cases. So that is very, very important. Not to scare you guys out, but it's very important that all of us get onto that bandwagon if you're not already on it, like today.
100%. You will see us releasing a lot more Gen AI come IPL there. Like, but it's just like the cost of doing it, sometimes we underestimate.
DeepSeek should actually motivate everyone. DeepSeek should be motivating everyone, I guess, instead of scaring us off.
Look, there are so many models out there. You have DeepSeek, which has come out, and it's come out of obviously China and stuff like that. But you had Llama before that, you had Claude before that, and I think every second day you're going to get a new model coming out. Don't be surprised, you'll have something out of India very soon. I think it's just, and the number of people who are working on these are unimaginable, right? And I don't think whether it's fintech or non-fintech, everybody is working on getting some models. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting. So before we end, I have a question. On Games 24/7, what's the prediction on today's match? All right.
We need to know his team, what he selected. Cool. Thank you, folks. Thank you for being a lovely audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anoop, for engaging the audience in the end. All right, folks, that was all about scaling and taking companies global.